Hello and welcome. I'm Alejandra Castillo, Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Economic Development at the U.S. Department of Commerce. As Administrator of the U.S. Economic Development Administration, I'm delighted to be able to periodically highlight the work of trailblazing women of advancing the cause of American prosperity and economic development. Last month, EDA and throughout the federal government, we celebrated Women's History Month. However, the impact of women making it across America is something that we should celebrate year long. I invited my good friend Candace Waterman to join me today for a brief conversation to discuss how she is doing an incredible work, but also reflecting on key issues surrounding women and economic empowerment. So Candace is President and CEO of Women Impacting Public Policy, the leading national nonpartisan policy organization on Capitol Hill for women in business. So Candace, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here with you today.
Thank you. And this is we're in an amazing place. We're at the U.S. Department of Commerce Library, a place where sometimes, in the past I've come for reflection. And I want to take this moment to ask you a couple of things regarding not just what you're doing, but how did you get here? What's that journey like?
So I first have to acknowledge what you just said. Being in a building like this just brings about, I want to say a nostalgia, but also a weight that is carried with you to know you deserve to be in this building, but the work that you're doing is what keeps you in here. And so I'm just so excited to be here in this building. And so when you ask, how did I get here? It was a jagged road, like many of us, right? I say I'm just a little brown girl from Detroit who could not have imagined that this is the space and the time that I would be here in, which is historical for us as women of color leaders. And so I started as an entrepreneur myself. I have run and sold 3 successful companies.
That's amazing.
Then was in women's business development I'm aging myself now, for over 25 years. And now have the opportunity to marry my love for leveling the playing field for women in business to being in policy and impacting real sustainable change, because we know that's where it occurs, is in policy.
I love how you started that answer by saying a little girl from Detroit. I see myself also as a little girl from New York City, and to be able to now, both of us, be in Washington, D.C. as 2 women of color, leading such an important conversation. Mm-hmm. What do you think defines this moment, especially for women entrepreneurs?
So I think first and foremost, to whom much is given, much is expected. So it is the expectation every day when I get up, no matter how I feel, I need to get up and show up for those 12.9 million women-owned businesses that I carry on my shoulder, because I know I'm standing on the shoulder of the giants who came before me. And so what does that mean for women in business? It means this is a historical opportunity in time when we have the infrastructure bill, CHIPS Act, and all of these amazing opportunities for women to take advantage of. It is the century of the woman to me.
That's a great answer. But I'll also tell you, you've piqued my interest because, as you know, EDA, we create the ecosystem. We like to say we create the ecosystem for people, places, and possibilities. As you think about those women who are contemplating either starting a business or considering growing their business, what ingredients do you think they need in order to make sure that they're leveraging this particular moment in time?
First and foremost, grit, and pack your patience. Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, and certainly doing business in the government space is not for the faint of heart. It also means understanding the supply chain and industry that you're in. You may want to solve a problem. That's lovely. But does that problem truly need to be solved in the industry that you're in and in the supply chain of the industry that you're in. You need to really understand that.
And I will also add, as you think about those tools, what advice do you give them as it relates to some of the federal funding that's out there?
First and foremost, I coined this phrase during COVID, at the height of COVID, during 2020. And that is, don't suffer from what I call application anxiety. That is counting yourself out before you put yourself in the game. Yes, apply. Yes, ask for all the money that you need. We know, because of the space we're in, the data shows, women ask for less than what they really need. Ask for what you need and more. Don't be afraid to get the help that you need, because I think as women inherently, we have a superwoman cape. Put that superwoman cape down and surround yourself with your tribe of other business owners, but the resources that are there. Yourself, you all have amazing resources available for these businesses to thrive. So don't be afraid to go after those resources.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in particular, for us at EDA, as we think about creating that ecosystem, it's also about partnerships. It's also about collaboration. It's also about making sure that you're bringing that tribe and that community together to think about what's the future, the economic future. How do you think about equity? Equity is a piece that can mean so many different things to different folks, but at the end of the day, it is about inclusion. How do you bring that piece of you into this conversation about equity?
I think to what you just said, I think about equity and equality as synonymous with each other, because I can't have equity if you don't even include me in that equation, right? In that equality equation. And equity means something different to each business owner, right? But ultimately what I think of equity is giving me, or the business owner, if you will, an opportunity to bid, an opportunity to the marketplace. I'm not saying a handout, because we know our women are going to show up. We know they're solution oriented. We know they are driven. We know they are going to over deliver. So just give them an opportunity. That's equity to me. Then equality is make sure you're doing that in every contract that's hitting the floor.
I want to go back to your tribe. Who gave you that opportunity?
Oh my God.
What does that look like?
So many people. And I have to tell you, first and foremost, who gave me the chutzpah? My mama. I was raised by my great-grandma, who, if you saw the movie The Help, that was her. Every Sunday I sat at the table and helped her polish her white shoes. She did not allow me to get boxed in by the thinking that was my future, because we lived a really great life, and I didn't realize until I was older how we lived that life on her back and what she was doing. But she instilled in me to go after every opportunity. There's nothing that I can't have. I learned, though, as older, I can have it all. I just can't have it all at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So as I think about that, my mama was my first. Then there's this amazing tribe of women around you. And then I can't forget the men who supported me, my mentors and sponsors, who we call our he's for she's, right? Who are in rooms that we're not in. So they're talking us into those spaces. I would even, to be honest with you, and you probably don't know this because I'm sharing this with you for the first time, we've known each other for a very long time. I've always considered you as part of my silent tribe. Because I look at what you have been able to do. You do it with such grace. You do it with grace and tenacity, and those are two words that are hard to put in the same sentence, but you get it done. So you too have been part of my tribe, just in a silent manner.
I thank you for that. I'm honored to be part of your tribe, and I will reciprocate, because as you know, it takes a village to survive Washington, D.C. It takes a village to show up in these places and try to break down those paradigms that for many, many decades have not been in our favor. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that. I'm very humbled. But I do want to go back to how do we hack this process, right? And what I mean by that is, procurement is not for the faint of heart. How does a business owner, a woman business owner who wants to get into the space, how does she do business with the federal government? And what advice do you give them, particularly now that we're talking about billions of dollars that are transformational?
It is a transformational time. I have to give this as a level set, if you will. The WOSB federal contracting program, I would venture to say, would not be in its place right now if it weren't for the hard work that WIP did at the table. Now, I always say that happened BC, before Candace, but now I get to stand on the shoulder of those giants, right, and usher it to the next level. So I give that as a level set to say, plugging in to organizations like WIP, like our consortium partners, to look at the resources that we provide to assist women business owners with understanding what it takes to market to the government. Very different than the private sector. What does it take to have payroll? You need to have, if you win a contract, you need to have payroll for at least 24 months, right? The other is looking at pricing. If you're getting $1 million contract, but it's costing you $999,000, is that the right contract for you, right? Do you have the right resources? So it is for women business owners, look at what you want to do, meaning what solution are you bringing to the table, and then what resources are there for you that already exist, instead of you thinking that you have to go it alone. Because there are so many organizations like ours who are doing the great work to get you ready, and then looking at yourself at EDA saying, oh, here is an amazing, more amazing programs, and oh, by the way, dollars to get you there as well.
So 2 quick questions before we wrap up. The first one is, what's your vision for WIP?
My vision for WIP, first and foremost, is not to be the best kept secret. I want to be the Kleenex, if you will, of women's business development and procurement in the government space. So when someone says, who's WIP, it's like saying, oh, I don't need a tissue, I need a Kleenex, I need a WIP, right? So it is getting that word out, ensuring too that once that word is out, that we're truly delivering on the value. The value for our constituents, that means our women-owned small businesses, that means our agency partners like yourself, that means our corporate partners as well, right? Because it takes those public-private sector intersectionality relationships to truly move it forward. And I want us to continue to speak our 3 languages: advocacy, community, and education. And the best day in the world for me will be the day that I get put out of business and I don't have a job, because that means the playing field will truly be level.
I love that. Let's put on a futurist hat.
Okay.
What does the future of women-owned businesses look like? What industries are you thinking about for women-owned businesses? How do we help them get to those industries of tomorrow?
I really want women to delve into and not be afraid of the tech space. AI, AR, VR, male-dominated spaces, even in manufacturing, right? Women tend to be in service-oriented spaces. This is an opportunity for us to retool, to re-educate, to expand outside of the box for the next 2, 3, whatever, 4 years it is, so that we can be ready for the 5, 10, 20, because you already know, like I do, the conversation that's happening with technology, AI, quantum, all of that, they're working on stuff that's going to come 20 years from now. So get in on that conversation now, but that means tooling yourself to do that.
And that's why I always tell folks, you got to wear that futurist hat.
You do, I love
because
that
what's
question.
happening today is setting us up for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Absolutely.
As we close, I want to go back to that little girl in Detroit.
Okay.
What would you tell her today?
Oh, God. So many stories. First, I'll go back to what I said. Yes, you can have it all, just not at the same time. Something is, I won't use the word sacrifice, but something's got to give. I can't have an amazing career and still go home and take care of my family. I don't have a family because I've been so busy in my career. right? I have amazing nieces and nephews, so I get to help raise them.
We're in the same boat.
Yes. So I get to help raise them, but I don't, because now my legacy is tied to the work that I do across the country, across the world now, with being a U.S. delegate to the W20. So you can have it all, just not at the same time. And give yourself grace. I was sick 2 years ago. Well, it's going to be 3 years ago. I'm a woman of a certain age. It's the first time in my life I gave myself grace. I have never given myself grace in my life, and I needed to. And I heard someone ask, would you talk to your best friend the way you talk to yourself in your head? That I said no to. My best friend would hate me, right? And so as a result of that, that's what I tell my little self, that little girl in Detroit. Give yourself some grace.
Can I add, what I would say to myself is, we're going to be all right.
Oh, I love that. We are.
We're going to be all right.
I just got goosebumps. We are.
Sometimes in this work that we do, we're so passionate about it. We throw ourselves in it. We give 100+ of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily give ourselves grace.
No, we don't.
But at the end of the day, I think we need to remind ourselves we're going to be okay.
We are. Oh, I love that.
So I want to thank you.
Oh.
I want to thank you because I think this is exactly what we need. We need to be telling the stories of the power of women-owned businesses, of the power of women as agents of economic change,
Mm-hmm.
of the power of women as a community,
Absolutely.
and the fact that, yes, we do need to give ourselves grace. So
We
I
do.
want to thank you, Candace.
Oh, thank you for having
As always,
me.
you inspire me and you uplift me in so many ways. So thank you for your words today.
Oh, likewise, and thank you so much. Hope this is the first of many conversations left to come.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So how can we learn more about WHIP?
The best kept secret. Well, we can
Not for long.
Not for long. So WIP.org, that's WIPP.org, and you will find all of the information that you need to engage with us, to plug in, to add your voice to ours, because it's about the power of the voice. And I'm super excited because we are launching a new podcast, Her Business Matters. So you will see us on the World Wide Web and everywhere, talking about all things that matters to her business: leadership, policymakers, thought leadership. So just all of these topics that really affect and impact businesses.
That's great. So a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Her Business Matters.
Yes.
And we could see it at by visiting your website at WIPP.
Yes, and we'll be on all platforms at that point, Spotify and Apple and all of the others.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you, Candace.
Well, thank you. And where can we find you?
You can find the Economic Development Administration at eda.gov.
Short
Thank
and
you.
sweet.